Sorry, just 1 second.
Where are you from, John? Just outside St. Louis, Missouri. All right. Yeah.
Can you make sure we're on mute? Yes. No problem. All right, everyone, please be seated. I hope you all had a nice night. So where we left off from last time, the state, it was your witness, Detective Hines, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, state, you may proceed.
Hey, good morning, Detective Hines.
Good morning.
I want to go back to your investigation. When you got to the apartment and before you secured it on the 21st, you remember testifying that you, out of abundance of caution, you had some CSIs take photographs and capture something?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Officially, and I know there were coworkers and managers, department supervisors there, maintenance folks. But did you officially know or have any documentation of who the body was that you saw there?
No, sir, I didn't.
Did you, and how typically do you, in the course of your investigation, your training experience, how do you do that?
Well, usually when we're working a death scene, we'll get what's called a tentative identification, because technically we can't positively identify someone until the medical examiner runs their fingerprints or identifies them for us. But I didn't find anything that would lead to a tentative identification. I just knew it was an adult female, approximately 75.
What are the type of things that typically lead to a tentative identification?
Driver's license or some type of documentation such as a light bill or some piece of mail or something like that.
Okay, given that this was a woman, did you find any, if it was a guy asking you found a wallet, purse, anything like that?
I don't recall finding anything like that.
Just the lack of that in the apartment, does that have any investigatory value?
Objection that calls for speculation.
Are they overruled?
Does that have any investigative value?
Yes, if we're looking at a death scene and there's no identifying information, that kind of raises a red flag. But again, because we didn't know at that point it was a homicide, it's just something that I've tucked in the back of my mind.
Okay. Then after the autopsy was done, an official identification, when you returned to the scene, and then you met whom when you returned to the scene?
I met the daughter of the victim. Her name was Brenda Boyd.
Okay. And as we covered yesterday, there was some conversation between you and Ms. Boyd about what you learned about the change in your mother's condition. You knew something now, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you shared that with Ms. Boyd.
Yes.
Okay. And that you ultimately.
I'm gonna object. This is asked and answered. This is like a recap of what happened yesterday.
That'll be overruled.
And ultimately, did you learn some information from Ms. Boyd?
Yes, I did.
What did you learn?
Objection hearsay.
Sustained.
After talking to her, what did you do? And why did you do it? What impression did you form in your mind, your understanding? What did you do?
After the conversation with her, I learned that the decedent.
Objection, this will be hearsay.
Sustained.
Again, sir. Did you go to see Ms. Boyd someplace other than her mother's apartment?
Yes.
Where did you go and see Ms. Boyd a second time?
At her home.
Her home. Okay. And you got information from her at her home.
That's correct.
Okay. After, and did you do anything based on getting that information from Ms. Boyd at her home?
I got information about a bank account that belonged to Miss Paula Boyd, and the last four digits on the ATM card, 7838.
Objection hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay, but you got a bank account. Did you learn digits of the bank account?
Yes, I did.
And was the digits of the bank account, was that important now that you knew it was a homicide?
Yes, sir, it was important.
Whose bank account numbers did you determine after talking to her daughter on the second day?
Objection hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you understand? Did you form an impression after talking about who it was? Was it pertinent? Was that bank account pertinent to the body you found?
Yes, it was.
Whose bank account was it?
It was Paula Boyd's.
Where did you go after talking with Miss Boyd at her home? Where'd you go?
Actually the following day I went to 8558 Huebner, or actually that night on the 22nd, went by 8558 Huebner and spoke with a clerk at the store.
And what is at 8558 Huebner? What's there?
It's at that time it was a convenience store called Quick Stuff. And I can't remember what gas station it was, maybe it's Chevron.
Okay, and Madam Pro Tem.
Yes.
So I'm showing you what is marked as states exhibits numbers 150 and 151 for identification. What are 150 and 151 for identification?
Those are pictures of 8558 Eden, the convenience store in Jack in the Box restaurant.
Okay, and do they fairly and accurately reflect this is an 8558 Eden Road?
Yes, sir, that's it.
Do 150 and 151 for identification fairly and accurately reflect the address 8558 Heaton as you saw and went to it in October 2015?
Yes.
Move to introduce 151, correction 150 and 151 in the evidence. I tender 150 and 151 to defense for inspection.
No objections.
All right, states exhibits 150 and 151 is admitted.
And I'm sorry, Your Honor, I forgot to ask permission to publish.
No, it's fine.
And I think I heard you say you thought the time was a quick stop. Is that quick stop?
Quick stuff.
And states that was 150, and then states 151. Is that the number for the street on Heaton where you went?
Yes, sir, that's correct. 8558.
Okay. If you could describe to the jury the layout and what did you do when you got there? I think it's now the 23rd.
Yes, sir, it's the 23rd.
What did you do when you got there?
I walked into the store and confirmed the location of the ATM. And I spoke with the manager on duty, confirmed that she had access to the ATM.
Right. And then just orient me. So you come into the doors. What's to your left as you enter the store?
I think some food displays were to the left.
Okay, and this is the counter where the manager is, and she left or right?
Probably more like to the left and kind of in front of the door.
Okay, and you testified yesterday that you went to the ATM machine there and used your own card to check it out.
Yes, sir, and that would have been the day before.
Okay, and where is the ATM machine in orientation to walking into the doors?
When you walk in the door, you would turn right, and this is at the time. I haven't been back to that store since this happened.
It's important. It's in October 15th.
October.
Turn to the right.
Yes.
And as you walk to the ATM machine, do you pass any other aspects of the store?
The displays, ice machines, soda machines, common convenience store things, the refrigerators where they keep the drinks and food items and things like that.
All right, so as you walk into the right to the ATM machine, is that soda counter and the drink display, is that to your right or left as you're walking to the ATM?
As I'm walking to the ATM, it would be on the left.
Okay. And you, as you went there, did you know a number, the ATM number when you went there?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And approach her.
Yes.
What number is the ATM?
128B.
120.
128B.
Ah. Okay. And showing you what's already admitted into evidence, State's Exhibit 128B. Well, and in fact, since it's evidence, we'll publish. I will. Don't yet. Don't let me do that. Now, off 128B, what information is confirmed on this receipt that you knew in your investigation to that date?
The terminal ID number.
And what, go ahead, what is that?
That where it says terminal number and it says LK 129959.
Okay. And what else do you, is pertinent?
The date and the time.
And so is that the actual date and the actual time that you were there and running your card?
Yes, sir.
You know,
It's not in use because. the
Yes, ma'am.
flashing. Can you just make sure you put it
yes,
on?
ma'am.
Thank you.
And so you knew the receipts from the ATM are accurate real time,
Yes, sir.
okay? So having confirmed the receipts are accurate, what was the next step in your investigation?
The next step was to look for any video of anyone.
Well, what did you do in terms of 7838?
Oh, I asked the manager on duty to run a query for that particular last 4 digits. And she provided access to the machine and pulled a bunch of receipts for me.
You were looking for 7838,
Yes, sir.
run on that LK.
Objection leading.
Correct.
Sustained.
What is the number of the ATM machine that you ran your card through?
It's LK 129959.
And you're looking for any records or documents of 7838 being run on what day?
On October 21st, 2015.
And were you able to obtain any receipts or documents of 7838 that were run on October 21st, 2015?
Yes, sir, I was.
How many did you find?
I asked the manager to pull several. I don't remember the exact count. It's probably 8 or 9.
All of seven, you pulled a total of 8 or 9?
Yes,
How many referred to 7838?
Objection, that's going to be hearsay. As I understand it, this is information he got from the manager.
Can you re-ask your question? The court is unsure if this is something he personally knows or not.
Okay, I asked you, did you get documents? I think I asked him if you got documents. Yes. How many instances of 7838 did you get?
Objection, that would be hearsay.
I asked him how many he got.
That'll be overruled.
I think 3, but I don't remember for sure.
Okay. Did you actually, and you obtained, how many total receipts? I think you also testified you asked for several more.
Yes,
Why did you do that?
I wanted to get a broader time frame to make sure that there was, the card wasn't used at any other times around that time.
Judge, can we approach?
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to discuss it amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Does everyone understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we're gonna take up a matter briefly, and then I'll have you all come back. Probably 15 minutes, okay? All right, thank you. All right, so the jury.
The store manager.
How do you know that those are the receipts you collected from the store manager on the 23rd?
Because they are initials with my name, well, my initials and badge number.
You did that when you got them.
Yes, I did.
Now, we know from states 128B that the receipts themselves are individual items. How is it they come to be arrayed 4 to a page on 2 different sheets of paper?
When I got the receipts from the manager, I went back to my office and got a sheet of copy of paper. And I take the receipts to a piece of copy of paper and then make copies of them. And I stored the originals that I'd gotten from the manager in the property.
Okay, and all of that, laying it out, was that part of you trying to figure out what you had?
Yes, sir. It's all part of the investigation. This is not the first time I've had a deceased person's credit card used.
And of the 3 receipts that are bank card ending in 7838. And what was the time frame you said it was used at?
It's it starts off at 1506 and ends at 1510, or 306 to 310.
And how many receipts are there for 783?
3.
So ultimately, what did you conclude from looking at the 3 receipts of 7838?
I concluded that the card ending in 7838 was used at that ATM
How many times?
3 times
On what day?
on October 21st, 2015.
And that's the same day you found the body.
Yes, sir.
That's all I intend to listen, Your Honor.
Defense.
So the receipts you have, you can't vouch for the validity because somebody else gave them to you, correct? You're just the messenger. You didn't generate those receipts on your machine, did you?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. And then you can't tell this court that you know that information on those receipts is true and correct because you didn't generate the receipts. You don't have the software or the ability to create those receipts. Somebody just gave them to you, correct?
Yes, sir. I stood there next to the manager and
Right.
she pulled the receipts up and she said, "Here you go, detective."
And those aren't the original receipts.
No, these are not the originals.
The original, are you aware that in addition to other property being lost and destroyed in this case, those were also lost and destroyed? The original receipts are destroyed.
Yes, sir. I learned of that last week, I think.
And after learning of that, did you do an inspection to see what else was destroyed or lost?
No, sir, I didn't.
Okay. So Judge, my objections are one, hearsay. He can't vouch, chain of custody, he didn't originate these receipts. Somebody has the software and the knowledge to know that this is correct. Secondly, best evidence would suggest that perhaps the evidence that they destroyed would be the best evidence, so we could see that in fact they were the actual receipts, much like they brought the receipt from the trash can. So I'm going to object to its being admitted under hearsay, relevance, and spoliation.
First off, Your Honor, I'm not seeking to admit that evidence. What I wanted to elicit was he was looking for 7838 being used at that ATM on the 21st. And that document is simply to refresh the detective's recollection and to the time frame. 2, he has testified that those are the actual items that he himself retrieved before they were entered into the property room.
Well, let's address the hearsay issue. Let's start with hearsay.
First off, he observed it, and the documents themselves would fit under the hearsay exception as under 8036 because they are documents, records of regular conducted activity known to be done in the course of this. Again, and the standard here for admissibility is
But has that
only,
been established that this was during regular conducted activity?
Your Honor, his testimony when he ran his own card the day before and he got the receipt from the machine. If anything, this is more secure because this is the software that produces that. It's not the receipt that an average customer gets going to the machine. This is coming out of the software that runs the machine. It has a time, a card. We already know as he went there that 7838 was used at that machine on October the 21st. This confirms October 21st, the card was run not one time, but 3 times during a time frame. Ultimately, the question is, would a reasonable jury deem that ultimately whatever that it's authentic and reliable? And I believe it would. This is what led the officer to that place. He confirmed the ATM was accurate. And then he went looking specifically for 7838, which had been pertinent in his investigation, particularly the card used and the time it was used. And these documents confirm that. So 8036 is what I would tender as the best exception. And again, it is still information acted upon that eventually would lead to a suspect.
May I?
Yes.
First, 8036, like the court pointed out, he doesn't know that these are regular. This is akin to him going to the hospital, picking up some medical records and bringing them here and trying to use them. Well, you can't, because he's not the source of the information. He cannot tell you that that information is correct. He believes it's correct, but he did not. And Daryl, as Daryl so eloquently pointed out, it comes from specialized software that he has no knowledge of. I don't think he's the proprietor of that software, nor is he the keeper of those records. So for all of it, 8036 absolutely does not apply to this situation.
And
So
again, I apologize.
So I object. It's clearly hearsay. It's not admissible through this witness, and I object.
And again, I'm not trying to admit it. I'm simply asking him what he did next in his investigation and what he learned from it.
All right, with regards to the hearsay objection, that will be sustained.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, just give us a moment. We're going to take a short recess.
Real quick, while we're still
Yes.
on. So he cannot ask this witness how many times was that card used, because that comes from the hearsay that he's trying to rely on, correct?
Now, what he can ask, we're going to go off the record. Everyone, just give me a moment, please. Can I have parties approach?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I just want to get along with each other. I can learn from them.
Well, I think they must be waiting for someone to join the line. So I'm going to sit down. All right, everyone, please be seated. Thank you. All right, state your witness.
So Detective Hines, did you get what you were looking for while you were at 8558 Eden Road?
Yes, sir, on the Friday, October 23rd, 2015.
And did that advance your investigation to that date?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, so you knew what? Right.
On that date, I knew the last 4 of the credit card number, and I had confirmed that there was video there at the store.
Okay. And you knew where and you knew when.
Yes.
Seems to me the next most important thing is to try to figure out who. How did you attack trying to figure out who?
I requested the manager show me their video surveillance system, and I looked at the cameras to make sure that they were operative, and they were operative. The only thing wrong, the time was off by about a day and about 19 minutes.
Okay. And you looked at the video, the cameras there.
Yes, sir, in the back room of the store.
Okay. And did you, in what time frame did you look at the, now what kind of video is this? Is this from the store? Is it from the ATM? What is it?
It's the store surveillance system.
Okay. And what does the store surveillance system that you looked at, what does it cover?
It had several angles. I don't remember exactly how many, but the front door, several parts of the store. I think there was at least one camera in the parking lot.
Okay. And so did it cover the entrance to the store as you described previously?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And you testified that you
Objection leading.
Sustained.
what direction, when you come in the front doors of the store, what direction do you turn to get to the ATM?
To the right.
Did the video you saw show the path to the right to the ATM?
Yes, it did.
Is there a camera or a video, do you walk past the soda fountain to get to the ATM?
Yes,
Is there video showing people walking past the soda fountain to get to the ATM?
yes, sir.
The video that you saw, did that video fairly and accurately reflect the doorway and entrance to the quick stop at 8558 Evening Road as you know it to be?
Yes, sir, it did.
Did the video you saw fairly and accurately reflect the path on the way to the ATM by the soda machines as you yourself knew them to be?
Yes,
The video from the corner overlooking the ATM, did it also fairly and accurately reflect the soda fountain and a portion of people at the ATM as you yourself know it to be?
yes, sir.
What did you do after seeing the video in the store?
The next step was to contact our video investigations unit. It's a specialized unit, and that's their job, is to pull surveillance video from anywhere that we might be.
Okay, and did you give them instructions?
Yes, I did.
Where did you tell them to go?
Objection, your statement.
Overall,
I requested video investigations to go to 8558 Cuba.
That same store you went to?
Yes,
And you instructed them to obtain video.
yes, sir.
What time frame did you instruct them to get?
Well, based on the time that was displayed on the screen, about 1446 or so, or 2:46 in the afternoon.
Okay, and did you ask them to get a time frame that was pertinent to your investigation?
Yes,
When you were in the store and watching this video yourself, did you see someone enter the store and be positioned at the ATM between that, over the course of 7838 being used?
yes.
Describe the individual as you saw him on the video when you were looking at it in the store.
Black male, about 6'4", probably over 300 pounds, wearing blue shorts, red tank top, and a ball cap.
Did you know who that individual was in terms of your investigation to that date?
To that date, no, I did not know who that was.
Did you ultimately get a copy of the video and who was it that you tasked to retrieve that video?
It was Detective Jim Simpson, but he's retired now.
Okay. And did you ultimately get a copy of the video that Detective Simpson retrieved?
Yes, I did.
And did you look at the video that Detective Simpson retrieved?
Yes, I did.
And the video that you got from Detective Simpson, did it match, and was it what you had seen at the store yourself?
sustained.
Had the video that Detective Simpson received, had you seen it before?
Yes,
Is it the time you saw?
yes.
What did you do in your next step with the video and the information you gained to date? What is the next step in your investigation?
The next step, because I did not know who the person was on the video, I was going to publish the pictures through our public information office to try to seek the identity. Once I did that,
Before that, did you talk to Ms. Boyd again?
yes, sir, I did.
What day did you talk to Ms. Boyd?
Tuesday, October 27th,
And that's Ms. Brenda Boyd.
Miss Brenda Boyd, yes, sir.
That's the same woman you spoke to at Ms. Paulita's apartment on the 22nd.
Yes, sir.
Did she come along? Where did you talk to her at?
She came down to public safety headquarters at 315 South Santa Rosa to the homicide office, and she had her husband Pete with her.
Okay. And did you show Miss Boyd and her husband Pete any evidence in the investigation?
I did. I showed them the video footage that I had collected from Detective Simpson.
And were they able to identify anyone in that video?
They almost simultaneously said that.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Did they identify anyone? Yes or no?
Yes,
They gave you a name.
they gave me a name. Yes, sir.
And what did you do with that? Did they identify a relationship between that name and Miss Paulita Boyd?
Objection, that would call for hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay. What did you do with the information that you received from Ms. Boyd and her husband Pete?
Once they gave me a name, I conducted research in a couple of our databases, and I was able to come up with an identification and an address.
Okay. What did you do after you got that identification and that address? What did you do?
I obtained a search warrant for the address of the person that was identified in the video.
What address was that?
5622 Evers Road, apartment number 1401.
Okay. And did you yourself go and execute that search warrant?
I, along with Detective Richardson and another detective named Chad Nelson, who at that time was in one of our covert units.
Okay. And who did you find at the person that, correction, 5622 Evers Road? Do you see anybody in the courtroom today that lived at 5622 Evers Road?
Yes, sir.
And if you would point to them and identify them by articles of clothing that they're wearing.
Mr. R.C. Thurs is wearing dark pants and a flannel shirt.
And of the three individuals sitting at council table, is he the one with a mask on?
Yes, sir.
And in your opinion, does the individual, and for the record, Your Honor, the detective has identified the defendant. Does the defendant look like the individual that you saw in the video in the store?
I'm gonna object. That invades the province of the jury.
That'll be over with.
Yes, sir.
When Ms. Boyd and her husband identified, number one, what happened after you executed the search warrant?
Well, actually, I was executing the search warrant, another detective interviewed the defendant.
Okay, so did they interview him there at 5622 Evers Road?
No, sir, they interviewed him at police headquarters.
Okay. Were you in community, and what detective was that?
It was Detective Richard Richardson.
Okay. And if I understand things, so you were the lead detectives. Did you stay and supervise the search?
Yes, sir. Well, not supervise, but coordinate with the crime scene.
And CSI Roberson, was he there?
Yes, sir, he was.
Okay. Were you also communicating with Detective Richardson, who was with the defendant at Public Safety Headquarters?
Yes, sir.
Did you yourself eventually go back and talk with the defendant at Public Safety Headquarters?
On that day, I talked to him very briefly.
May I approach you? There you go. Now, after executing the search warrant at 5622 Evers Road, did that end your investigation?
No,
What else did you do going forward after the 27th of October?
after the 27th of October, I coordinated with Detective Richardson on that day to find out the results of the interview he had conducted with the defendant. And I just moved forward with the investigation. On October 28th, based on things that were said during that interview on the 27th, I did a subsequent search warrant at the convenience store to make sure that I had the exterior video.
So going forward from there, did you obtain any other records or documents that related to why you went to 8558?
Yes, sir. I conducted, I completed grand jury summons or subpoenas, as they're commonly called, to Wells Fargo Bank, Wood Forest Bank, and Chase Bank.
Okay. That approach, Your Honor.
Yes.
Sir, I'm showing you what is, and for the record, Your Honor, there it is. I'm showing you what is marked as States Exhibits numbers 153. Apologize to the court. I'm showing you what has been marked as States Exhibits numbers 153, 154, 155, and 156 for identification. Do you reckon? Flip through them to see if you recognize the context. 153.
Well, 153 are the records from Wells Fargo Bank.
Okay. What is 154 for identification?
$154 are the records from Wood Forest National Bank.
Skip forward. What is 156 for identification?
$156 is records from Chase Bank.
Okay. And what is 153 for identification?
153 is the affidavit and search warrant that I committed.
153 is Wells Fargo. That can't be right.
I'm sorry, 155.
155. Yeah, 155.
Thank you, Charles.
Oh, yeah. This is the search warrant for 5622 Everett.
And for the record, Your Honor, States Exhibits 153, 154 and 156 identification have been filed with the court in compliance with the requirement for rules 8036, 90210, with an accompanying business record affidavit from the institution. State moves to, and 155, the search warrant that was executed. State moves to introduce 153, 154, and 155 and 156 into evidence and tender 153 to 156 to the defense for inspection.
Then we approach.
Yes.
Search warrant.
All right, everyone, you can have a seat when you make your arguments. That'll make it easier for everyone. So we're gonna start with,
You know, if I may allow, if I can continue with a bit more foundation that will support my life.
yes,
Okay. Can I get the bills?
I'm sorry,
Yes. Can I get these?
all of them or just that one?
All of them.
and council, we could just do it in order. So let's start with
Yes, ma'am.
153. And if you go through 153, then we'll allow defense
Yes, ma'am.
to cross or either urge whatever objection they have to 153. So we'll go through each one of the exhibits one at a time.
Okay, looking at page
I'm
150.
sorry, I'm confused. Are we?
I'm just
No,
gonna lay a
he's-
bit more foundation that'll support the arguments that we make.
We're outside the presence of the jury.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
heard your argument with regards to 153.
Okay.
So he wants to lay a little bit of foundation and then do his argument, and you'll have a chance to cross-examine the
Thank you, Jim.
witness.
Sorry, I got lost.
No problem.
Okay, detective, states 153, the total submission that's all stapled together and has a cover stamp. The first two pages are my filing the affidavit, right?
Yes, sir.
Page 3 in that, this is the cover letter from the custodian of records of Wells Fargo Bank.
Yes, sir, that's right.
When you received the submission from Wells Fargo Bank with the cover letter, this is a record affidavit. I am presuming, you correct me if I'm wrong, from your, and then the next page is this transaction page.
Yes,
Did you receive that when you got it from Wells Fargo Bank?
yes,
Then we have the business declaration. You received that from Wells Fargo Bank.
yes,
The next page is 2 pages, 1, 2, 3 pages that have written on it, received from Brenda Boyd.
yes.
Did you get that mailed from Wells Fargo Bank, or is this what you got from Ms. Boyd previously?
That's what I got from Ms. Boyd previously.
Did you insert that with the filing of the business record?
Yes, I did.
The next page is the grand jury summons, and then a copy of your business card.
Yes,
I don't think you got that from Wells Fargo Bank when you got the bank records. You inserted that yourself.
well, typically what Wells Fargo wants us to do is bring them the subpoena to one of their branches. And what I usually do is give them a business card so they know where they're sending information.
Okay, and did they send that back to you?
Yes,
With the grand jury subpoena and your business card?
yes,
This came from Wells Fargo.
yes, that's
So those pages from the declaration itself, this is what they sent to you,
yes,
okay? The next page, we got Wells Fargo, page 205. Now, there's information here that is blacked out, redacted, if you will.
yes.
Did you do that, or did this come from the Wells Fargo custodian of records? Did it come that way?
They came in.
This is how you received it from Wells Fargo.
Yes,
The next page, page 4 of 5, also redacted. Is this how you received it?
yes,
Page 5 of 5, page 6 of 5, then we get to a document that says Wells Fargo combined statement of accounts, and there's a redaction there.
yes,
Did you receive it this way?
yes, that's the way it came.
Page 3 of 6, also redacted. Did you receive it from Wells Fargo that way?
Yes, I did.
Same thing on 4 of 6, 5 of 6, 6 of 6. So the only thing you added then, well, really, based on your testimony, and there's a cover letter from you, the only thing that you didn't receive from Wells Fargo is the 2 pages of the filing that I made for states 153. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir, in the papers that I received from Ms. Boyd. Yes,
Yes, you inserted those.
I inserted those, yes.
I'm now talking to states 154 for identification. Again, the totality. I think I counted about 9, 10 pages total. The first 2 of which are my motion filing it as a business record exception, correct?
Yes,
Now, next page 3 is a copy of the grand jury summons that you sent. Did that come in 154 is Wood Forest Bank? Did that come back in the submission that you got from Wood Forest Bank?
Yes,
They sent that to you.
they sent it to me. Yes.
The next page is the affidavit of the custodian of records from Wood Forest Bank.
Yes,
The next page goes into the actual bank records themselves.
Yeah.
It came from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The last page, when it looks at debit card transactions, there is some handwriting on that page. Whose handwriting is this?
that's my handwriting.
And you put it yourself after you received it,
Yes,
okay? Did you, and you put it on the original document that you received from Wood Forest Bank?
yes,
You were working in your investigation at the time.
yes,
After you completed that, did you then submit the documents into evidence?
yes, I did.
The handwriting you added, did you change any of the numbers, the account numbers, the contents of the record that you received from Wood Forest Bank?
I will be know how to do that.
So this was a printed document that clearly reflected it. Yours is just mere surplusage to what came from the entity.
Yes,
That is your testimony.
that is my testimony.
Nobody else changed it.
No, sir.
I'm showing you what is marked as State's Exhibit number 156 for identification. Again, it is a complete filing. So ultimately, the Jennifer C. Gibson Morgan Chase document. So we have 2 pages that are the filing itself. Then we get to the JP Morgan Chase. That's a cover letter addressed to you in response to your subpoena.
Yes,
Next page is an inventory listing of what's filed. Then there's a business record affidavit.
yes,
Then there's a blank page photocopy of it. It looks like a blank page.
I don't know what that is.
But a blank page came with the filing.
Yes,
submission.
came with the submission.
Then we have information that shows a card number, retail platform, and a name associated with that account.
Yes,
Then there's another blank page.
yes, sir.
Then we have 4 pages of transactions specific to that account and the individual in that account.
Yes,
Okay. Then we got blank pages. Is that the totality of what you got from the custodian records of J.C. Morgan Chase?
yes,
Okay. And thereafter, there appear to be some 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages of looks like I can best describe as receipts.
Mhm.
And each of these 6 pages of receipts, they bear RH 235
Hey,
That's your badge.
that's my badge.
Looks like your badge number, and there's on the page, nothing's altered, you just wrote on each of these receipts.
Yes, just
Okay.
a document that I collected.
Okay, and because that became something else for in your record, but the filing from JP Morgan looks like this is complete, but when it gets scanned and uploaded in the system and evidence, some other parts of your investigation got attached.
Okay.
Does any of this extra page, did it alter or change what's in the filing?
No,
Aside from so really, the only thing that's that you did or modified or changed, state's exhibit is 154. You had handwriting on the last page of that transaction record.
yes.
I have no further questions I would ask the witness.
Let's start, sir, with 153. Are you familiar with what the purpose of a business records affidavit is?
As far as I know, it's someone verifying that they are the custodian of record.
And it says, and you've looked at 153, for example, correct? And there's an audit, there's a signature from someone that under perjury of law, these records are true and correct from the bank, right?
Yes, sir.
And then the court, the district attorney's office in front of the jury offered these to the judge, said, Judge, under the records with the sworn affidavit attached, we want to offer these exact records into evidence. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Well, these aren't the exact records, are they?
That's what I received in the email.
So when you got the record, your initials were on there?
No,
Okay, so these are not exact copies of what the bank sent you. They've been altered and changed. Right?
well, the only change that I made.
Objection to the question, Your Honor.
Well,
Counsel
that-
is,
That'll be overruled. We're outside the presence of the jury.
this exact record that says these are, the district attorney in front of the jury has told the jury, we have sworn records that are exact copies. So you're telling me Wells Fargo, when they sent this to you, under perjury of law, somebody handwritten on there, received from Brenda Boyd Perez.
No, sir. Those are the documents that I actually received from Brenda Boyd for this.
So these are not the exact copies of the bank records. There's been things added to them, correct?
Yes, sir. I don't know how it got there.
So 153 is not a true and exact copy of what you got from the bank. And what are the redactions? Did you look and see did you call them and ask what all that is?
No, sir, I didn't.
In fact, the majority of this 153 is stuff you added. The stuff you got from Brenda, correct?
No, sir, that's not correct.
For the first, all these pages with your initials and received from Paula Boyd, that's not stuff you added?
Yes, sir, it is.
So let's go to 154. 154, in front of the jury, the state offered into evidence with a sworn business records affidavit signed by Lucy Cooper that these records are the exact records offered into evidence pursuant to 8036. Once again, so the bank sent you records that said same guy, attempted to get refund, can't find transact. The bank sent all that stuff?
No, sir.
So these are not true and exact copies of the business records, are they?
No, sir.
Okay. Then you go and let's skip to 156. 156, once again, in front of the jury, the DA tells the judge these are true and correct copies sworn to by an affiant. In this case, it's Jennifer Gibson. I declare under perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. These are exact copies. And then all these receipts that have your initials on them, did those come from the bank?
No, sir.
So 156 is not a true and exact copy of the bank records, are they?
No.
Okay. And even with your limited knowledge of business records affidavits, the fact that they're not the true and correct copies makes these worthless, don't they?
I don't know, sir.
I mean, would it seem right that you could bring stuff and add stuff to it and mean, you get something from the bank, original records, you add stuff to them, they are no longer the original records. We agree with that, correct?
Yes, sir, I'll agree with that.
153, 154, and 156 are not true and exact copies of the original bank records, correct?
Yes.
Well, Judge, for those three exhibits, then obviously they don't comply with the 8036. They've been altered. I won't say tampered with, they've been altered or changed, they've been added to. It's a lot more than mere surplusage when you staple 17 pages to bank records that they try to sneak in under the business records affidavit. So we absolutely object to 153, 154, and 156 because they do not comply.
Let me see 153, 154, and 156, please.
Yes, Judge, may I approach?
Yes.
I don't know which door you wanted them through, so.
All right. All right, for exhibit, states exhibit 153, the information that's written by the witness that's in the document, and when I say information that's written, I see where he's written received from Brenda Boyd Perez. I'm assuming that that page is not from Wells Fargo. Is that correct or no?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, I believe that's the exhibit that has been previously marked. Clearly, the bank could not have sent forward. I think you got mixed in.
All right, so but I just wanted to be clear. So the page from 153, states exhibit 153, where it says received from Brenda Boyd, that entire page 101 is not from the bank. Is that correct?
It's
When I say not from the bank, I
yes,
mean
ma'am.
not
Not
as a
in that
part.
submission with the business record affidavit. Yes, ma'am. And
So this page that I'm
Yes, ma'am.
showing to both parties,
yes,
that
ma'am.
wasn't included in the business records affidavit that was sent from the bank. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And the detective testified that he added that as he had it.
All right, that will need to be removed from the document.
But
Let me finish. This page that was stapled, that was added to the business record affidavit by this witness. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's what his testimony was. And I believe all of those are part of 149, which we discussed yesterday.
All right, anything that has been added to this document, 153, that was not included as a part of the business records affidavit that was sent from Wells Fargo needs to be removed.
Yes, ma'am. And then towards the remainder of 153, the detective has testified that he received it with the redacted, blocked out items. That's how it came from the bank. He added nothing else to 153.
All right, so states exhibit number 153. The part that's being removed are parts that were added by this witness. So other than that, defense objection will be overruled with regards to 153.
Judge, and I asked that they produce the original so the court can see. I mean, at this point, they have originals somewhere. I need to see them to verify what they're saying. And once you unstaple that document, it is no longer a certified copy of what came from the bank.
I'm not gonna unstaple.
But my understanding is,
It
did
was,
that document, time out? Did that document come stapled from the bank, or did this witness staple those documents together? That's the question.
Judge, I didn't ask that. If I could go back. Detective Hines, do you recall the document when it came from the bank? Was it stapled with the affidavit or was it loose?
Well, I actually had to print it out from an email, so it was all separate pages.
So it was a virtual page with the accompanying affidavits, etc.
Yes,
And so you print it out. So Your Honor, they were not stapled as
All
they
right, the
came.
court has
from-
made its ruling on states exhibit number 153. Those pages need to be removed. Anything that was added by this witness needs to be removed. States exhibit number 154. The court is reviewing that. All right, this page 101 that shows the debit card transaction, there appears to be writing saying same guy. Is that a part of the affidavit that was presented, or is that something that was added by this witness?
The handwriting on that page was added by this witness.
That needs to be removed.
Judge, may I, real quickly, just before they start tearing pages out and getting rid of them, for the purpose of the record, can we maintain the integrity of these exhibits, make copies or something?
Yes, we
Okay,
will.
Thank you.
So everyone, I'm just giving my ruling now, and we will
So
take
they
care
were
of.
tearing them out and putting them somewhere.
No, I was just putting it back.
All right, so that's this court's ruling with regards to
So-
States Exhibit 154. Anything that was not included in this business record affidavit when it originally came needs to be removed. And that includes any notes by this witness in the business records affidavit that needs to be removed. The business records affidavit needs to be the way it came to him in the email, however he received it.
Yes, ma'am.
And States Exhibit number 156. That will be the same ruling of the court. So we can have 150, I guess it's 153, 156, and what was the other number?
153, 154, 156, those are it.
All right, so those numbers will remain the same. And what will be admitted will be 153A, 154A. You'll make that as an A, and that is what will be admitted before the jury. So that defense, these will be maintained the way they are. And then copies will be made so that they can have the 153A, 154A, 155A, and 156A. Yes, defense.
First, I would re-urge the court to they provide the originals. So I mean, there's a lot of good faith going on now, considering this witness 10 minutes ago under oath told this jury, these are exact copies of what I got from the bank. I recognize them. Well, they weren't. And they're not. So he has changed the documents and tearing pages out on his, at this point, just based on what he tells us is correct. I'm not comfortable. I hope the court's not comfortable with that. We'd like the originals presented so the court can at least find comfort that the documents are as they're supposed to be. Secondly, as they were marked and discussed in front of the jury, now they're not he cannot vouch for the veracity of these documents because now we're tearing pages out of it. It was presented as if these are the business records affidavit, these are the bank records. Well, they weren't. So the veracity of the documents now, it comes into question. And furthermore, the jury heard evidence of what was done to these documents, and now they're going to have an impression that is a false impression through no fault of the defendants that the documents were, in fact, the original documents when they're not.
All right, so that will be handled on cross-examination. The court has made its ruling. Is there anything else from either side?
Once again, we asked the court to ask the state to produce the original business records affidavits as received from the three lending companies.
And again, Your Honor, I just want to be clear so I can accurately execute. The detective did testify as to 153. His practice when he goes and coordinates, he leaves in the subpoena, his business card. They sent back a photocopy of the subpoena and business card when they submitted the filing. That is what came to Detective Hines. The
court has made its ruling.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we're going to take a short break.
May I inquire of the witness real quick? Just,
Yes.
you said these were pursuant to a grand jury subpoena.
Yes, sir.
And then once you received them, at what point did you alter them? Before you gave them to the grand jury?
Well, I didn't give them to the grand jury, sir.
When you presented those to the state,
Yes, sir.
were the attachments that you added already attached? In other words, did the grand jury hear information that was not from the bank? Did you give them information that was already stapled to the grand jury subpoenaed information?
Well, I have to go back 6 years, because that's, 5 years, over 5 years. When I sent this case file over, I cannot say absolutely that I put all those documents together. I know that I filed the case with the district attorney's office, if the papers were shuffled and put together, or I cannot account for that, what happened to the papers after I sent them.
If I may, Your Honor.
No, stop. The court has made its ruling. Everyone, please have a seat. We're gonna bring the jury back in a few moments. Look at those documents. If he has another document that is on his email, then you all can print that out. But the court has made its ruling.
Yes, ma'am. Can I, but you're gonna bring it because I need to go and make the changes.
All right, let's make that happen. Can you let the jurors know that we're gonna have them back, what's it, to 11?
Can I
Yes,
take a break?
yes, you can. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, and state, I will believe we were on your witness and you had made an offer of evidence, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. If I may approach to.
Yes.
obtain your exhibits. So on the record, I have Detective, again, just to get back to my story. So I'm showing you what you identified as 154A, 153A, 156A, all of which were filed with the court, business record affidavit in accordance with the statute and compliant with 8036, 90210.
Yes,
You recognize each of those exhibits.
yes, I do.
And then we also had talked, and I had a copy of State's Exhibit 155, and that is a copy of what?
An affidavit for search warrant and a search warrant.
And the search warrant that you executed on October 27th, 2015.
Yes,
And again, Your Honor, I move to introduce States 153A, 154A, 155, and 156A into evidence.
Please note my objections heard outside the presence of the jury on all four documents.
Yes. 153A is admitted, 154A is admitted, 156A is admitted. 155A, the court has previously made a ruling on that document. And the defense's objection to 155 will be sustained.
Thank you, Your Honor. And may I publish?
Yes.
Regards to 153A and Detective, what is the institution that 153A is from?
Wells Fargo Bank.
Flipping through. On page 3, the business record declaration. It's also from Wells Fargo Bank.
Yes, sir.
And this part here of the debit cards associated with this account. 7838, is that the number you went to 8558 Heather to look for?
Yes, sir, it is.
And on the page that is titled Transaction History, what date is that?
That's October 21st.
And what activity took place on October the 21st?
It says it's an ATM balance inquiry fee.
And what card was that balance fee associated? Let me see if I can get it close.
7838.
And is that the same number you went looking for on October the 22nd, 23rd, when you went to 8558.
Yes, sir, when I went to 8558.
Showing you what is introduced in the evidence of states 154A. What is the financial institution that's associated with 154A?
It's Wood Forest National Bank.
And over the course of your investigation, did you learn, and is that the account of who? Wood Forest National Bank.
Paula Boyd,
And what were the last four of the account numbers associated with Paula Boyd?
0373 for the debit card.
Turning to the page of 154A, the debit card transaction search. And to your knowledge, because on the Wells Fargo, there were several other cards or cards in last fours associated with Wells Fargo. Were there any multiple account holders on the Wood Forest Bank card?
I don't think so.
Okay. And under view transaction, what is this date?
I can't see it, sir. It's zoomed out too far.
Oh. Do you see any transactions also on October the 21st, 2015?
Yes, sir, I do.
And what time does the record indicate that transaction on October 21st occurred?
3:07 p.m.
And how many do you see on October 21st, 2015?
I see two.
What's the second? What time is the second one on October 21st?
At 3:07 p.m.
That window, those two transactions at 3:07:09 p.m. and 3:07:49 p.m. Does that fit within the time frame when you were looking for video that you testified you saw?
Yes, sir, that is within the time frame.
And what conclusions can you draw from the Wood Forest Bank card with those transactions history?
That the card was attempted to be used at that location.
And both the Wood Forest Bank, this account, and the Wells Fargo are both of those accounts of Ms. Paula Boyd.
Yes, sir.
So multiple attempts were made on her accounts on October the 21st, 2015.
Yes, sir.
As it relates to the Wood Forest Bank accounts after Ms. Boyd's death on October the 21st, do you see additional transactions on the Wood Forest Bank record?
Yes,
States,
sir.
that states 154A.
Yes.
Where else do you see transactions attempted? Do you have a location from the transaction history?
Yes, sir. It's Walmart, two different Walmarts, actually three different Walmarts, and a McDonald's.
Okay. What dates do you see the Walmart card being used at?
October 22nd, 2015.
How many transactions do you see on October 22nd of 2015?
Looks like three.
The first one, what Walmart number?
It's Walmart number 5146.
And the transaction here, top of my pen, what Walmart is that?
Walmart number 4131.
The last page, the debit card history. What was the number, the last four you were looking for the Wood Forest Bank card?
That's 037.
And is that what it appears to be indicated there?
Yes, sir.
Now, at this stage in your investigation, when you had those documents, and you learned that activity happened on Mrs. Boyd's card after her death,
Yes.
what did you do?
Well, once I received the Walmart numbers, I had to do a Google search to see which ones they were. One of them was at 8030 Bandera Road. The other Walmart was at 9427 Calabria, and one at 8923 West Military.
Okay, do you remember which numbers associated to which
I think
Walmart?
8030 Bandera is number 5146.
Okay.
And 9427 Calabria is 41 something.
Okay. What did you do after you associated Walmart numbers with their locations?
I went to each individual Walmart and basically the same thing. I contacted loss prevention there. And I let them know I needed to look for transactions with this debit card because the person who owned it is deceased. And they ran the transaction history with those numbers and gave me copies of the transaction history.
Okay. Did you follow on with along with the transaction history? And again, I think we discussed, that tells you the what and the when.
Yes, sir.
Did you try to find out who was involved with those transactions on Miss Boyd's cards in the days after her death?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what did you find in trying to determine the who?
Well, once Walmart provided me with their surveillance video, I published still photos of the person using the card, and I was able to locate a witness who identified those persons.
And again, the surveillance video that you've heard some testimony, who got the surveillance video of the transactions in the use of Ms. Boyd's card? Who got it?
At the Walmarts, they're loss prevention people.
So who obtained it?
Who obtained it? I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Once loss prevention, they basically burn a disc for me, put it in my hand, and then I submit it to our video investigation detail.
Okay. And again, the video you obtained, that put a face that matched the receipts for the transactions that the bank record that states one.
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Okay. The video, did it have a timestamp?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did the timestamp match the receipts that you saw?
Yes, they did.
And did the receipts that you saw match the entries on October 22nd in States Exhibit 154A?
Yes, they did.
Did you ultimately identify, and did you see a male, and who did you see that did the transactions using the Woodforest Bank card on October 22nd of 2015? Who did you identify somebody?
Yes, sir, I did.
Who did you identify?
Objection, that's gonna call for hearsay. Because somebody, I mean, unless he can say he knew that person without being told who that person was.
That'll be overruled.
Thank you. Ultimately, who did you identify?
Ultimately identified a gentleman named David Rocha.
What did you do once you identified the name David, the person David Roach?
I researched to find out what kind of history he had, and I started looking at obtaining arrest warrants for him.
Okay. Did you try to execute those warrants?
Yes, sir, I did.
You have any success?
No, sir. I actually went to his last known address and he was not there.
And the warrant for the arrest of David Roach, what was that for?
The charges were credit debit card abuse and fraudulent use of identifying information.
Just a moment, John. Over the course of your investigation, how many people did you, other people you speak with? Did you ever investigate or talk with any other members of Ms. Boyd's family?
Her grandson,
What's his name?
I think it's John Nombrana.
Did you, how many times did you talk to Mr. Nombrana?
Twice.
Right? Did you ultimately ask him to cooperate or support your investigation?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, did he cooperate?
He cooperated for me.
What did you do towards your investigation? What did you do in terms of talking to him and eliciting his cooperation?
I interviewed him, and I can't remember who mentioned it, but they told me that this boy had a grandson that was always asking for money. So I just interviewed him to find out if he could have been involved in this. And he cooperated fully, allowed me to search his apartment, and came in for 2 different interviews.
Did you collect any evidence from him personally?
Yes, sir, I did.
What was that?
DNA sample.
Okay. Did you talk to any of Ms. Boyd's neighbors?
She had a neighbor named Miguel Rosales.
And let me get, and I've got ahead of myself. What did you understand after the autopsy? What did you understand to be the cause of the death?
Jason, you're saying?
Overruled.
It's already in evidence.
I made my ruling. I said it was overruled.
Oh, thank you, and I apologize.
It was blunt force trauma.
Okay. I guess the question is, knowing it's blunt force trauma, what does your training and experience tell you? What type of possible suspect are you looking for once you know blunt force trauma?
I could be anyone that could use a heavy weapon, or anyone that's strong, or anyone that has any type of particular type of fighting skill.
Okay.
It varies.
As a rule, though, you're looking at men in our life.
I would look at men, yes.
Okay. And so, Mr. Rosales,
Yes.
did your investigation reveal his relationship to Ms. Boyd?
He was a neighbor.
Okay. Did you talk with him, interview him, do the same things with him you did with her grandson, John Nombrana?
I did not search his apartment, but I did interview him and collect the DNA sample from him.
Him as well. Over the course of your investigation, did you conduct any other searches of any other individuals, collect any other DNA?
I collected DNA from a Donald Lee Barnett, and yes, Donald Lee Barnett and the defendant. Well, I didn't personally connect one from the defendant, someone else.
You know that.
Yes.
Did you interview Donald Lee Barnett?
Yes, I did.
One time, on one occasion, or several?
I interviewed him twice.
May I approach you?
Yes.
And detective, did you yourself collect any evidence from Ms. Boyd's apartment? Documents, calendars, anything like that? Notebooks?
I don't recall if I myself collected any evidence. I know I had CSI there collecting it.
Okay. Oh, sorry, man, approach you.
Yes.
Detective, I'm going to show you item that was evidence that's marked as State's Exhibit number 127. Sealed, did you see?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And on the back, and you've collected evidence in any cases before, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is normally the practice when you enter evidence, collect evidence, enter it, store with the property owner?
Normally, we take the evidence into the property room and we have to initial it, put a date on it, and make a barcode for it. And then we put it in lockers that are inside the evidence storage room.
Okay, so on the front of item, State's Exhibit 127, what does the barcode say for this piece of evidence?
It says a red planning calendar recovered from all the boys' apartment.
May we approach?
Yes.
On the back of State's Exhibit 127, is it marked and initialed in accordance with the common practices of the San Antonio Police Department? Do you know them?
Yes, sir.
Is it sealed appropriately?
Yes, sir.
Are there initials on the seal?
Yes, sir.
What initials are they?
They're mine.
And is that your badge number next to it?
Yes, sir.
What conclusions can you reach from looking at State's 127 regarding who entered this into the evidence?
Yeah, I put this in the property room.
Does that refresh your recollection now?
Yes, sir, it does. I mean, again, this was more than 6 years ago, I think.
So if we could, if you would, use this to open up State's 127.
I'm sorry, may we approach again?
Yes.
I know, so your testimony now is that you entered it into evidence,
Yes, sir, I put it in the property.
okay? Does that, now I'll ask you again, do you recall you collected this 127?
Yes, I did.
At that point, like if you would open it up. and pick it up, see what's there. And red plan, monthly plan.
It's a monthly plan, yes.
And when were you in, Ms. Paula Boyd's apartment? What were the days again?
It would have been October 21st and October 22nd.
Who did you collect buccal swabs from in the course of your investigation?
Donald Lee Barnett, Miguel Rosales, and John Daniel Nombrano.
I'm showing you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 126C. And who is the individual, and what is State's 126C?
This is the DNA buccal swabs that I collected from John Daniel Nombrano.
Okay, and how do you know it's the swabs that you collected?
Because my initial and badge number on the seal.
State's Exhibit 126D. What is State's Exhibit 126D?
Buccal swab collected from Miguel Rosales.
Okay, and is that the buccal swab that you collected?
Yes, and it has my initial and badge.
And finally, State's Exhibit 126 Echo.
It is the buccal swab collected from Donald Lee Barnett.
And
And the date, my initials and badge number on the seal.
okay, if you would please open up each of the three items and pull out the contents. And inside of each of the exhibits, 126E, 126C, and 126D, there are separate white envelopes contained inside, and the names of the individuals, both front and back.
Yeah.
And at the top of each of these, they are also sealed themselves. Do you see your initials on each of the inner envelopes?
I see my initials on this one.
And this one is the envelope that's inside 126E. I'm talking white envelope.
Okay, yeah. This is the one collected from Barnett.
And is Mr. Barnett's initials or signature also affixed to the envelope?
Yes.
Okay,
And this is the one collected from John Daniel Nombrano.
and that is the envelope contained inside 126C.
Yes.
Do you have your initials
Yes.
on it? And do you have Mr. John Nombrano's signature initials on it as well?
Yes.
And finally, the last one, 126D. Do you see both your signature? Who is that? This DNA sample.
This is from Mr. Miguel Rosales.
Okay.
And he has his signature across the seal, but I don't think I put my badge number on this one. I don't see it.
All right. Then finally, I believe you testified that over the course of your investigation, you showed some video to a Brenda Boyd.
Yes,
And from that, it led you to ultimately go to the.
Objection leading.
Sustained.
And what did you do? And what was the result of your showing some video to Brenda Boyd and her husband Pete? What was the result?
I was able to identify the defendant,
Who was able to help you identify the defendant?
Brenda Boyd.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir, I think Mr. Barnett.
Objection, that's gonna call for hearsay.
No, sir. Who is it that came in to see the video with Brenda Boyd?
Oh, her husband.
His name is Pete Martinez?
I think it's Perez.
Pete Perez.
Perez, yeah.
Did Mr. Perez, did he also identify?
Objection, that would be hearsay.
Sustained.
I'm showing you what is marked as State's Exhibit 25A. Correction, the disc itself is marked 25A. This is State's Exhibit 157. You recognize State's 157.
Yes, sir.
And what is State's 157?
It's video footage from 85.
And is that the foot, and how do you know that?
Because it's properly labeled, and I believe this is what I submitted to the district attorney.
Okay. Is this the video footage? Is this the video that you showed Ms. Boyd on the 27th?
Yes, sir.
State moves to enter into evidence. State's Exhibit 127. (126E). (126D). And 126C. And I tender States 126 C, D, and E, and 127 to defense for inspection.
No objections to 26 C, D, and E.
All right.
We're still
States,
looking, if we can have a few minutes to look at 27,
all right.
please.
States Exhibits 126C, 126D, 126E are admitted.
We have a few minutes to go over 127 with our client.
Yes. Can I have both parties approach, please? All right, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, I'm gonna. Sorry, is there something else?
No, ma'am.
We can do it after.
All right,
No, ma'am.
thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, jury, I'm gonna give you your lunch break now, but we're gonna come back a little bit early. I know that I usually have you all come back at 1:30, but we're gonna come back at 1 o'clock. Would that give you all enough time to have your lunch?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so remember, you've heard some evidence in this case, but do not discuss it with anyone or discuss it with yourselves, okay? All right, everyone.